This is the Grow My Clinic podcast by Clinic Mastery, where we help you deliver amazing client experiences to grow your clinic.
Well, welcome to another episode of the Grow My Clinic podcast. I'm your host, Jack O'Brien, and today we have a very special guest, a friend of mine. We have Chris Marr, all the way from Scotland in your best Scottish accent. Chris, how you going?
Hi everyone. I was trying to think of something really traditionally, stereotypically Scottish, which would be, I don't know what that is actually. All right, everybody, how's it going? Chris from Scotland here in my kilt, my bagpipes on.
They can take our lives, but they will never take our freedom. Very good. Well, Chris Marr is from the Content Marketing Academy, based in the UK, but runs an online business all around the world and is a content genius. We go back a long way, and today's going to be a lot of fun. So, Chris, can you give us a little bit of your backstory? Tell us about the Content Marketing Academy and why you got into content.
Yeah, sure. We do go back a while now, a couple of years. The Content Marketing Academy has been around for, I think we'll celebrate our 5th birthday this summer, so in June, and it started off as an agency, a small agency. We had maybe, a dozen clients or something like that we were doing content for, and that was like a broad range. It was like everything. We got ourselves involved in everything, which is like one of the worst things you could possibly do. As a small agency, you really want to focus on something, and over the years, long story short, we started our live events. We started to build up an audience that were more interested in learning about content marketing than having us do it for them. So we felt this like increasing pressure from our clients, our agency clients, to kind of do the work, but we felt it was like we were actually having a greater impact teaching. Just similar to Clinic Mastery, I think, as well. There's like I feel much more comfortable as a teacher rather than as a person doing all the work for other people and building a team as well. I think we were starting to build a team, and it was you start to become a manager as opposed to a marketer, and there's a lot of reasons why, but we bridged into running a membership organisation, which kind of over the course of about 12 months, we went from agency and slowly bridged into membership, and that was about 2 years ago now when it kind of went full on. I think it's about 18 months ago we went full time into membership.
Yeah, sure.
So I kind of spend most of my time working from home in my home office, teaching people all over the world about content marketing and sales and stuff, that peripheral things that relate to that as well, but mainly about business growth. And we don't have a niche. We don't really focus on any one particular industry. We have B2C, B2B, we have private and public organizations. It doesn't really matter. It's about teaching people the principles of sales and marketing today for business growth. So that's what I do, kind of. Me and my partner have 4 kids between us, so we've got a busy life. That's another reason why I work from home, so I can take Wednesdays off, I take whole weekends off. So I guess the business model is there to support a lifestyle as well. So it's a full-on life, and my business is a big part of that.
I love it. So, you get asked this question every conversation, right? But what is content marketing?
I knew it was coming. I knew it. So I think this is a big question. For a lot of other people, they may think that content marketing is kind of like a fad, a new thing that marketers and business people are talking about. It doesn't really apply to me. A lot of people have a lot of misunderstanding and are misguided, and therefore that leads to sort of a miseducation, right, and then a lack of results from content marketing. So it kind of all starts at first of all, understanding what content marketing is, because if you don't understand what that is, then you really the rest of the journey through that is not going to be as successful as we'd like it to be. So my mission is to help people to get results from content marketing as quickly as possible. And that does come back to understanding what it truly is. And to be honest with you, content marketing, it's kind of unfortunate that it has a different name than everything else that we do in marketing, because it really is just marketing for today.
Right.
Marketing for today's environment that we live in, the culture, the way that consumers make decisions to buy now is truly through the internet and the information they find and educate themselves on through the internet. And I think there's a big gap between how consumers search and find and use information to make buying decisions versus how businesses communicate information to consumers to help them, to get them to buy.
Sure.
And it's like matching those two things up. So I truly believe that content marketing is just like another way of saying, this is how we need to communicate today as businesses to help our potential customers to buy from us. Mm-hmm. There's a much higher purpose than that, really, which is really to help anyone that's buying the thing that you sell in your industry, the service or the product that you sell, and help them feel confident doing so.
Sure.
So content marketing is really quite a big, broad thing, but in simple terms, it's really just for any business person that's listening today, any clinic owner today, it's what you need to know to market your business successfully in today's environment.
Today, as in 2018. And so
Yep.
I think one of the big distinctions that you taught me early on is that content marketing isn't just another tactic like Facebook marketing or Google AdWords or word of mouth. It's not just another one of the pillars, but more than that, it's a philosophy. It's a mindset around being helpful, around being found, around communicating with your current clients, with your prospects. Would you agree with that, or how would you expand on that?
Yeah, I think this is one of the biggest misunderstandings about content marketing is that it is a sort of tactic. You know, we're going to do content marketing. And when someone says to me, we're going to show you how to do content marketing, or would like to do content marketing, in the back of my mind, or even in the front of my mind, I'm thinking to myself, well, it's not really about doing it. Content marketing is who you are, or who we are as a company. It's how we communicate. This is how we communicate. That's what content marketing is all about. It is a philosophy. And because it's a philosophy, it has to have methodology, right? And we teach that. We'll talk about methodology in a sec. And it also has to have culture around it, right? So people need to believe in this as the way that we communicate. So it really does change. It doesn't just change mindset and approach. It changes culture within organizations. It brings teams together. It helps communication internally and externally with your customers and your prospects. It can be a massive change, and a massive positive change within a lot of organizations, from top to bottom, bottom to top, internally and externally. So yeah, it's a massive thing. I think we start to dig into it, you start to realize just how much of a cultural change it can have and how much of a shift it can have on you personally and professionally. So yeah, it's a big thing, Jack. So yeah, I believe that the philosophy, you know, how do we communicate as an organization, and content marketing, and my hope would be content marketing is how you would do that.
Sure. Okay. And so let's go a little bit deeper. You said that you don't have a particular niche, that you serve all these different types of businesses inside the Content Marketing Academy. There would be some clinic owners that out there that say, we're different. We're health professionals. We are a bricks and mortar business, and that content's all well and good for those who sell things online. But we're bricks and mortar. We are a hands-on service delivery. Does content marketing apply for bricks and mortar, or is it just for the online marketers?
So this really comes back to, if we forget about what type of business you are just now, and we'll come back to that, the first thing we need to think about is, how do people make buying decisions today? That's the first thing we need to think about. So whether you're like in retail, or you have bricks and mortar, you've got an actual clinic where people walk in, or they phone you, or whatever it is, or you get lots of your business by word of mouth, or whatever it might be. Or you're a completely online business like our businesses, Clinic Mastery. In fact, although it might seem like we do online a lot, we do tons of offline stuff like workshops and seminars. So, every business is different. But it does come back to thinking about, how do people use information to help them make a buying decision? And one of the best pieces of research that underpins everything to do with content marketing is something called the 0 moment of truth.
0 moment of truth. And tell me more.
The 0 moment of truth. So the 0 moment of truth, really, to kind of cut through the research for time for everyone here, is part of the research. Part of the result of the research was finding out that on average, 70% of the buying decision is made online before someone contacts a business for the first time. On average, 70% of the buying decision is made online before first contact.
Wow. So that's 70, not 17.
70% of the buying decision is made online before someone contacts a business for the first time. So what that means is that people are using information that they find online to help them make a buying decision. It might, in some industries, it might be higher, some industries it might be lower, but it doesn't get away from the fact that people are doing this. This is a trend. This is exactly what's happening. There's more information online. We trust information we find online more now, where we want to buy online. We don't want to leave our homes. Certainly, for a lot of people listening today as well, might be thinking to themselves, well, yeah, a lot of people just don't walk in off the streets and book an appointment. That's not how it works.
Nope.
You know, people need information. They need to feel confident that they're buying from the right person, especially if it's something that they've never done before. If this is new to them, it's the same as like visiting a hairdresser for the first time, a new hairdresser for the first time, or a new dentist for the first time, a new clinician for the first time. You want to feel safe in that environment, especially if it involves you know, taking off your clothes or getting into an environment where you feel a little bit exposed or vulnerable. So content can play a big role in helping, and plays a huge role in increasing confidence and trust in helping people to make a buying decision.
Yeah, that's great. And I think, I don't know how old that research, I know it's fairly recent, but I think it would arguably be higher. In our game, in the health game, people are researching different modalities of treatment, whether it's physio or chiro or osteo. And like you say, that trust element of finding out who am I going to be taking my clothes off in front of, who am I going to be entrusting my healthcare to, it's a huge element. So if all these...
You've got to...
Yeah, continue.
I was just going to say, you've got to think, you really do have to think to yourself, why would someone not buy from me, right? This is like, it used to be that people would trust easily, but as time's gone on and the internet and access to information, and you can read stories online, you speak to your friends, everyone's had a bad experience with something, the thing that you're about to do. They're going to tell you not to do it, or not do something, or watch out for this, or be careful of that. And so we have to think about our current prospects, the people that want to buy from us. It's not that they don't have trust yet. We're dealing with a distrust first. So you've got to think to yourself,
that's their point of reference.
Exactly. So they're in a point of reference where they're like, I don't want to trust this person, and then you've got to allow them to open up to you over a period of time. So content can help to increase that confidence. So the trust factor through honest, transparent content is exactly what we need to be doing. We need to be talking about the things that these objections, these stories, these myths about our industries, or the things that have gone wrong. We can't not talk about these things and expect people to trust us. So I think when it comes to the zero moment of truth, it was Google that did the research in 2011. It was confirmed by, I think, either Google or Forrester Research did it, and they came to the same conclusions that this is real. People are using searching and finding and using information to help them make buying decisions. And then in 2017, they did even more research to showcase that this trend is growing. People are looking for articles and content and video to help them to understand things, like especially in your industry, like you said, you've got all these different paths, osteopaths and blah blah blah. And I'm not an expert in the industry, but people need to know, like, what are the difference between all of these things? Who should I really be talking to? You know, they're probably looking up things to do with the symptoms that they have, solutions to those symptoms, how-to type content, comparison type content. They'll be wondering how much it costs for this stuff. Am I going to be out of pocket for it? Can I get insurance for this? You know, they'll have a ton of questions. And the first thing that they're going to do is they're going to jump onto Google and they're going to start typing their questions into the search engine to find those answers. The last thing they're going to do is pick up the phone and start speaking to somebody about it.
It's true.
Until they feel like they trust you.
Yeah, there's no trust in a phone call, or at least that initial phone call up front. To add some context to what Chris is talking about for our listeners, Chris recently pointed me in the direction of some research that we delivered for our Grow My Clinic workshop. Recently, I presented a piece on content marketing, and 70% of the buying decision is made online, and those numbers are somewhat higher for local searches. So people searching within a radius around, they're often searching on their phone, on mobile, and they're looking for comparisons locally. So those numbers are even higher when it comes to bricks and mortar and when it comes to local based searches. So that's some fascinating insight. Chris, you mentioned there about content that addresses objections, that addresses your potential clients' concerns. one of the big fears of clinic owners, of health professionals, and especially those who are based in Australia, although we have listeners all over the globe, is what we refer to as tall poppy syndrome, where you stick your head up and you speak about a topic, whether it's controversial or maybe just a little bit taboo, and for fear of what your colleagues might think, you say nothing. Or you just don't address a topic and assume that, just pretend it doesn't exist, right? The ostrich with its head in the sand. Mm-hmm. What is the consequences of not addressing important topics?
The main consequence of not doing is that your competition do it before you. So that would be the one thing.
So why is that bad?
Yeah, so I would say you want to be first, right? So I think there's a strong game in being first, especially in a market that is not saturated. And from what I can tell, the conversations we've had, there sounds like there's a lot of potential in these industries, especially with localized businesses. So I think you want to be first, and
yes.
if you're not first, it's not to say that if you're not first, you're going to be last. Being first gives you a great opportunity. I mean, I was reading some research this morning, as you do, about content online, and it is the oldest articles that exist online today that command the most traffic. It's just the way that it is. It has to be good quality, but I think what we find is that if you're first, you've got a much better opportunity to command authority online. So the tall poppy syndrome thing, right? So look, it's not about what your competition think about you. They could hate you if you want, and we don't want that. We want support, and we want our industry peers to help us and all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, this is about your business and your customers and your prospects feeling confident about buying from you. And if you're talking about either some of the objections or perhaps some of the problems that exist in your industry, and you're talking about that elephant in the room, then naturally I believe from a sort of philosophical perspective, if you're able to vulnerably, honestly and transparently talk about something that's a problem in your industry, then naturally you will build more trust with your audience. Right. Now, your competition might think that you're doing the wrong thing, or that your opinion doesn't matter, or that you're saying the wrong things, or you're advising people in the wrong way. But as long as you're coming from a place of transparency and trust, then I think you're doing the right thing. And the other bigger picture part of this as well is that you need to have an opinion. You can't just fit into the grey. You need to be able to speak. You're the expert. You're the one in the industry you've been in the industry for a while. You have an opinion. You should share it with people, with your audience, as long as you're writing that content to help your prospects and not be like famous within your peer circles, which is not necessary for running a business. I think that it's good to do that. So I'm not trying to underplay the fear element. Like, a lot of people don't hit publish or don't write something because they're worried about what people will think of them. But I think one of the solutions to that is to come from a place of how can I help? How can I be the most helpful to my customers and my prospects in my industry? How can I be the most helpful organization, teacher, clinician, practitioner, business person in my industry for my customers? And I think if you're working from that platform, you can't really go wrong. You're like, this is the most helpful information. These are the bad things that happen, and I want to help you understand them so that you don't make mistakes and that you feel confident walking into a clinic for the first time, or perhaps after something bad has happened, or if you want to switch clinics because something bad has happened and your confidence has been knocked. You've got to, I feel like this is the information that people are looking for online. They will find it online. The question is really, are they going to find it from you, or are they going to find it from someone else that's had a bad experience? And you've got to, almost like you want to own the conversation. Right.
Yeah, definitely agree. I think so that being first is really important. One of the lessons that I've learned from you is to try and write the single best piece of content on a given topic on the internet. And that's an interesting concept, because for us as health professionals, we go, oh, well, all the research, all the literature is already out there. How can I possibly write the best piece? But what we've found in our experience is that in a local-based environment, you can write the single best piece on the internet for your region or for your state, because Google will preference often local content for local searches. So being first and being the best, a topic might have already been, there might be blogs ad nauseum on a given topic, but that doesn't mean to say you shouldn't create something that is better, right?
Yes. So in most cases, even if research exists, which it does, and even if questions and the answers to questions and solutions to problems already exist somewhere online, there is a good chance you could do a better job.
Right.
You could make it, like, for example, if it's research-based stuff, you could make it easier for people to consume. Or you could be much more specific. So one of the ways so basically the question here is like, how do you differentiate in a market that already has content, or
Sure.
so someone might come and say, yeah, but somebody's already answered that question, Chris. And I'm like, right, okay, so first of all, should you be answering it? You know, is it just, as a matter of course, this question and this answer should be a blog article or a video on your website? The answer may be yes. They're like, well, actually, it doesn't matter who else has done it. We have to do it. Could you make it better, more in-depth, more specific? And then you've got to think about the subtopics of that as well. So going even more specific could be a way to differentiate. But absolutely, there is no doubt that differentiation can happen massively in a localized area. So if you're looking at localized businesses, there's a lot of work you can do to command local search traffic with content. Absolutely, yes. Yeah. So I think that to write the single best, this is like a place of, again, it comes back to like a foundational understanding of content marketing. And it's not just about, like, I think maybe if you go back 10 years, people would say something like, and even people now, Google loves fresh content. Just put more and more fresh content on your website and you'll be like rewarded by Google for that content. That is like the worst advice you could possibly get. Google doesn't need more. We don't need more information. Right. What we need is better information, better quality information. So I think like there's tons of crap. There's like thousands and thousands of blog articles getting published every day. The challenge for everybody now is to create the best version of that article that exists online today. And that is what will matter more going forward. Sure. So it's the balance is always there. It's like trying to strike between quality and quantity. And I strongly believe that we're coming down hard now on quality over quantity.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's interesting. We wrote a piece around Medicare rebates for physiotherapy. Medicare here in Australia is our public health system. And again, it's been spoken about ad nauseum. But we wrote a piece that answered a really common question that gets searched in Google really thoroughly in language that makes sense to a health consumer, to your average Joe who uses public health services. And it wasn't straight away, but fairly quickly, because of the quality of that piece, we actually outrank Medicare itself. we outrank the government on its own topics because of the quality of the content and us answering a question that our clients are asking. And so if they're going to ask it, then we want to be the people to answer it.
Yeah, I think the key thing is, you're right, there's lots of ways to differentiate your content in a marketplace. It can sometimes be really hard to be seen because of public organizations. They usually do command like that first page in Google for a lot of the questions and answers. But if you can make something much more helpful and much easier to understand,
right,
and you've truly got to think about the intent of the searcher. Like, what's the intent? And it isn't always, in most cases actually, it's not just they want an answer to a question. They want a solution to a problem. So it might start with a question, right? But by the time they work through the article, hopefully your article, it actually leads them through solving a set of problems that they have and gives them advice and direction on how to do that. So in a lot of FAQs pages and a lot of public organisation websites are literally just question, answer, question, answer. And you've got to think about what's the intent of the searcher, what's their true line of questioning, like what path are they going through just now? What journey are they taking right now? And you've got to kind of almost use your expertise to kind of understand and predict that, and then use the content, blog articles, videos, podcasts, whatever it might be, on your website to help them to go through that journey in a way that makes them feel confident, and it's easy for them to do as well. They can find the information quickly and easily. And you obviously want them to stay on your website while they're doing all of that.
Right. And that ease and confidence is such a huge thing. You touched on it earlier around transparency, but being able to produce content that is impartial, that might critique potentially a service that you provide or something that your industry has, provides. If you can impartially be a voice of transparency, the trust that builds is phenomenal, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's possibly one of the hardest things for business people to do, is to sort of say, like, this is not suitable for you. This is when it is suitable for you, this is when it's not. It's a tough thing to do, but it's probably one of the most important things you could do as well, is that if you are reviewing services or you're reviewing a particular part of your organization or your industry, and you do have an unbiased, here's the pros and cons of each side, and you're able to sort of carve a path down the middle and leave it up to the, if you provide the right information, they will make the right decision for them. That's what you truly want. That's what you want as a practitioner anyway, is you want them to make the best decision for themselves. The benefit is that they're not phoning you asking these stupid questions. They're going online and finding the answers to the questions themselves. So there's a ton of you've got to see the bigger picture. You can't just think, well, I'm not going to create the article because what could happen is I could lose business. The fact was you weren't getting the business in the first place anyway. Right. And even if you were, it was the wrong type of business. Yep. So what we want is higher quality of customers, better educated customers, higher level of confidence within our customers, people that trust us when they walk through the door for the first time, because what happens is they stay longer, they tell people about us, they spend more money, they become our best customers. You've got to see the big picture of this, and it all starts with honest and transparent content.
Yeah, you took my next line of questioning right out of my mouth. The quality of clients that come through are better educated. They believe in you. They trust in you. They're going to follow your advice because of the credibility that you've been able to build online before they've even interacted with you on a human-to-human level. They trust your organisation to do what you say. And in a health setting, what it means is that patients will follow your recommendation through to completion. In allied health clinics, there is nothing worse than clients who rock up to your clinic and who are skeptical whether you can provide a solution for them or not. You make a recommendation and the client sees that plan through till about 80% completion, but because they're not a quality client, they end up dropping out of the full solution, don't get the results that they're after, and end up blaming you for not getting the results, when the truth is you had the opportunity way before they were a client to create trust and to create a better quality of client. So that's why it's important in a health setting.
Exactly.
Chris,
it's really important, I think, to see that journey. I think it's really important to sort of see that whole journey through, that whole process, and think about like all the gaps that you have, or the sort of like, it's not gaps, it's like challenges. Why am I having to convince this new customer about our process? Why am I having to convince them in person? They should already have been convinced. Right. Yeah. You shouldn't have to do any of that when they start, and it does lead to just a better business, more profits. Right. I mean, like when you sort of drill it right down, you're saving time, you're saving money, you're making profits at the end of the day, and that's what it's all about. If content can help it does help that whole process, from someone who is a skeptic right through to someone who is your biggest advocate in business, for your business. That whole process has to be content-led right through.
Right. And to illustrate that, I can think of one of our Clinic Mastery Business Academy members who adopted this philosophy, and they ended up, the clients that weren't so desirable deselect themselves, those who are not necessarily going to purchase the solution that's offered. And a number that we often refer to, Chris, is patient visit average, PVA, essentially the number of times that someone will make a transaction with you. And that increased for them from 5 to 8. So nearly 50%. And what that means is certainly not over-servicing. No one condones over-servicing. But what it means is that completion of service to get better outcomes, better quality of clients, and word of mouth as a result goes bananas. Can we change tact a little bit, and let's talk about how to create content? So not necessarily the modality of video or written or podcast, but can we talk about ideas? Let's assume that health clinic owners listening to this podcast are happy to adopt the philosophy of content marketing, ready to go, sit in front of the computer with a Google document open, staring at a blank screen. What do they write about? How do they get in the mindset of a potential client who's searching on Google?
Okay, so do you want to double team on this one? I'll come up with some ideas, you come up with some ideas?
Sure, so let's assume that we're trying to answer questions that people are going to search on Google.
Yeah, okay.
We can think of a couple of questions, but can you frame us, maybe there's some buckets that we could frame these questions people might be searching?
Okay, so part of the methodology that we teach is grounded in a philosophy called They Ask You Answer. Right, this is a book and teachings by one of our good friends, Marcus Sheridan. So Marcus Sheridan is the author of the book They Ask You Answer. Right, so this is like one of the main resources that you should go and pick up. Pick up the book, read the book. And to cut a long story short, when we're looking at the zero moment of truth, 70%, on average, 70% of the buying decisions made online before first contact, naturally the next question is, okay, Chris, so people are looking for information online, they're searching for stuff. What are they searching for, right? What information are they looking for to help them make that buying decision? And what we've found, or what Mark has found through years and years of creating content, not just for his own businesses, but for everyone, the hundreds of businesses, thousands of businesses probably that he's taught around the world, is that there are 5 key areas of information that people use to help them make a buying decision. So it's called the Big 5.
Okay.
The Big 5 will move the needle in terms of content, traffic, sales, leads, all that stuff for your website. And the Big 5 are price, cost, reviews, comparisons, best of, problems.
That's 5.
Those are the Big 5. Yeah.
Maybe you've got Sing's fingers in Scotland, but we'll let that one slide. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Okay,
those big
that's
buckets.
it. So exactly. So there's these big buckets, right? So how-to content isn't on there, but I think how-to content could be like number 6, but it could also fit quite easily into problems type content as well. So price, cost, problems, best of, reviews, comparisons. That's the type of content that people are looking for. And if you just think about, the best thing to do is think about, when it comes to creating more ideas, just think about your own buying behavior. Like, what do you look for? Be a little bit more conscious now going forward, how you find information. And you'll find that you type things into Google that you never thought you typed into. Like, what are the best? Like, holy shit, that's best of article type content I'm looking for, right? And you're like, well, that's what people search for. We compare things all the time. Now, I know that testimonials, reviews, and case studies and stuff like that is probably not applicable to people in the audience, but generally speaking, consumer behavior, reviews, and comparisons are huge, right? It's amazing how we use someone's information or opinion that we've never met before to help us make a buying decision. It's crazy. It's nuts. We do it every single day.
And the truth is that as health professionals, we're not allowed to solicit those reviews and testimonials, but they're out there. People are leaving Google reviews, or they're talking about their experiences with, a podiatrist versus an orthotist or whatever it might be. So best to be part of that conversation. Sure, reviews.
Exactly. Yeah. So these are the big 5 areas. And we haven't got enough time to dig into it all here, but They Ask You Answers, the book that you want to go and get and study that book, and then the methodology in there will give you exactly the buckets that you need to think about when it comes to creating content. And your challenge is you should easily be able to come up with 5 pieces or 5 potential pieces of content, articles or videos, whatever it might be, for each of those areas, right? So that would be 25 ideas, say, for sake of argument. That should be really easy to come up with. But I think when it comes to the big 5, really is like I said, the methodology. It's kind of like, well, how do we make it work within the big 5? But there's loads and loads of ways to get tons of ideas. Like, just listen to your customers when they're asking questions about stuff and bank them, write them down. Check your sent emails that you've sent to your customers to answer their questions. Check your inbox that's coming in. Look at, I don't know if Answer the Public works really well for this type of business, but Answer the Public is a good resource as well. Look at, do tons of research, like literally search Google for the questions that you think your customers are asking and see what content exists online. Scroll to the bottom of Google and on page 1, you'll see 10 other related searches as well. You should, and a lot of people do approach, like when we're doing workshops, for example, with content marketing, the first thing people will say is, I don't know what to write about, or I don't know what content to create. And by the end of it, they're spilling with ideas. So you should never really run out of ideas. And just because I'm saying the big 5 doesn't mean there's only one article for each of the big 5 either. So that's not an excuse for not writing content either. This, honestly, you should have ideas that last you a lifetime.
Yeah.
One of the best examples I can think of is Kate McQuillan from Pet Sitters Ireland. She's written 3 articles for her website for probably going on 6-7 years now. Every week, 3 articles for 6-7 years. She's got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of articles on her website. You will not run out of ideas. It's just about how open you are to really challenging yourself to create those ideas. And when it comes to content marketing, ideas are currency. You need the ideas to start with. So you don't want to be staring at a blank piece of paper. The Big Five is certainly a place to start. And there's lots and lots of ways to, honestly, just tuning you into why are our customers asking this question? Why have we not answered that question on our website already? And thinking like that, I think helps.
And I think, so the process there would be knowing your ideal client or knowing who your current clients are, what they're searching, and then being able to communicate with them in a relevant way. So can you speak a little bit around just the real basics on how to craft an article that answers these big five, or how to stand in front of a video camera and answer that question via video? What are your tips for that?
Yeah, so I think there's lots of mistakes that people make and it's fine. You know, people when they're just getting started, they're really excited, they're motivated, and maybe even at the end of this call, you're like, I want to go and want to write blog articles, right? So I've got a bunch of content. I could maybe give some stuff to some links to Jack to put in the show notes, perhaps, so you can have a look at this. I wrote an article recently on the 15 mistakes that people make with a blog art. It was actually 15 things I'm fed up teaching about how to improve your blog article, because it's the same mistakes that people are making all the time. But I think really if we were to kind of add value here in terms of the mistakes you might make, is that your content, you may start to write your content and it comes off quite preachy. In other words, it feels like you've got a chip on your shoulder about something, and that doesn't inspire and motivate your customers to want to buy from you. It just makes you sound, well, it just doesn't make you sound attractive that people want to do business with you. So the way that you want to craft your content is you really truly want to think about your prospects and how this is going to help them feel confident and motivate them to take action. So thinking like a teacher, that's how I always think, well, how can I help someone understand this better than they understand it already? And trying to make it simple and laid out in a simple way. You don't have to sound smart in your content. This isn't about who's the smartest. This is about who can be the most helpful. So simple language, breaking it down, lists, subtitles, short sentences, short paragraphs. It doesn't have to be the best piece of written, literally. It doesn't have to be the best piece of writing. Literature, right. It doesn't have to be the best piece of writing that you've ever done. It doesn't have to win awards. What it has to be is readable and easy for people to understand. So those are kind of the big mistakes that people make. Also, like I find it's, especially when people are writing content, their introduction and their conclusion are usually the weakest points. So they get the bit in the middle right, which is the bit that we really need. But the introduction is really, really important. So for example, if someone's on your website for the first time and the first page that they read on your website is a blog article, which is highly likely, if you are creating blog articles, that your homepage is not going to be the only page that people visit for their first experience. So they need to feel like they can trust you. So the first thing is empathy. This is usually missing from, I'd say half of the articles that I read, there is no empathy. And what empathy means is that, do they feel like that you understand their problem? Are you put yourself in their shoes, right? So you're probably, if you're asking this question, you probably feel like this, or you're probably having these other problems as well. If that's the case, then you're in the right place, and we're here to help you. We're not going to sell anything to you in this article. We truly want you to feel good about movement and feel good, whatever it might be, and trying to lower these barriers. These people are not stupid. Until they trust you, they think you're trying to sell to them, right? Mm-hmm. That's what they think. So you need to help them feel like they can trust you, but that you understand their problems, the empathy's there, that you're credible, that you have got a right to actually talk about this. So if you've been in business for 10 years, try and get that into your content as well, to imply that you've done this a bunch of times or you understand the problem, but also help them feel like, that they can trust you. And there's ways you can do that just through a softer approach to your writing. Sure. So those are kind of like, you really want people to come and read your articles and get value from them. And I think if you start from a place of, how can I make this really helpful? How can I help people trust me? But also thinking to yourself, how do people feel about this problem? And then having that empathy element in your articles helps to lower the barriers. It helps people put their barriers down and let you in, because that's really what we're talking about. I think those are kind of writing. I would say it's writing techniques or structure techniques, but just thinking about the question that people have, the problem that they're having, how they feel about that problem. Try and use as much as you can. Try and use. I mean, it might be difficult when you're first starting, but try and use an example or a story or an anecdotal story, perhaps, to help emphasize a point. Where you can, try and help them see the bigger picture. So, like, what could the outcome be if they follow this advice or they take this path, and then help them to take that action at the end of the article or the video you're creating. So, what's next for them? What's the transition? What am I now supposed to do with this information that you've shared with me? How does it help me? And a lot of articles just end. The content just ends, and it's like, great. So what's next? I don't know what's next. So you've got to help people. It's almost like you need to lead them by the hand. And I think my gut feeling is that a lot of practitioners should lean directly into this. Just imagine you're in front of the prospect and they ask you a question. You aren't just going to give them a one-word answer or a one-sentence answer. You're going to walk them through the problem. You're empathetic with them because they're right in front of you. You have to kind of really bring those feelings into that sort of situation when you're writing your content as well, and pretend that the customer is right in front of you and that you're trying to impact them in a positive way.
I love that. And I think you're bang on target in terms of that intro, building your authority and empathy, delivering the content. We're all very good at that in terms of our expertise, and then wrapping that up and helping them take the next logical step. You've done all the work, right, of getting your audience on board and providing great value. So help them take that next logical step. Don't leave them out to dry, for sure.
Exactly. You don't have to worry about giving away your expertise or your information. Information is free these days. It's just that is the world that we live in. If you are expecting people to come to your clinic to get advice and pay you for it, then I really think that unless you've like a huge authority and you're like 1,000, you're delivering webinars and stuff like that, or you're doing big sessions, that's fine. But if you want to be the best clinician, just because I guess the best example I can say is just because I can download a recipe for a cake doesn't make me a chef. Right. So I think for you guys as well, it's like, well, giving away this information is only part of it. The other part is when they get into the clinic and you're using your hands and your skills and your techniques. That's really where the huge value is for people. So don't feel afraid to speak your voice. Don't be your opinion, but also don't be afraid to share your expertise as well. It's what people need to trust you, to understand that you do know what you're talking about, that you are credible, and that you do care, and that you want to see people get through their problem to a good result and get back on the track or get back onto the field or whatever it might be. So I think content plays a massive role in this, and I think that a lot of people might be skeptical of it because of the way that they get business just now. And that's what we find when we're doing workshops as well. They get business is fine. We get it through word of mouth, and people are telling each other about it, and they're phoning us every day, and we've got appointments. But you've got to see this bigger picture that Jack mentioned before as well, which is the higher quality of customers, staying with you for longer, getting to completion, that whole ratio that you shared with me as well. Content can help every part of that journey.
Yeah, it really can. And, one of our big focuses at Clinic Mastery is the client experience. And the truth is that a client journey with a health practitioner is probably 20 or 30% what happens in the consult room, and 70% what happens outside the consult room. And that is where content really comes into its own, from all the way before someone is a client, when they haven't even got a problem. They just see you around the interwebs as the expert, and then as they become a client, enhancing their journey in and out of the clinic. It's been really helpful, Chris.
That's a massive point you've made as well. And I don't think it's just exclusive to clinics. I think every business is like that. That you have the experience you have with someone one-to-one is only a small percentage of the total experience. So you've got to think about what they're doing out with that one-to-one experience. Yeah, you're totally right. Content, I think there's to sort of draw a line under that, I think there is, when we're doing our teaching and we're talking about content and discussing the benefits of content, there is only upside. There's only upside. Right. What's the pros and cons of content marketing? The only con is that it's wrapped up in overalls. You have to go and work at it. Everything else is upside. It's all upside. It's all good, basically. It is. That's what I'm trying to say.
And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, right? Yeah. I love getting in front of the camera and help it. Really, as health professionals, we got into our profession to help people And I would actually go so far as to say, if you're not creating content, helpful content, you're doing your clients a disservice.
Yeah,
you really are.
You're not making the biggest impact on the world if you're not doing content.
Yeah, spot on, Chris. That's unbelievable. This has been a whole lot of fun, and I really appreciate your input here on the Grow My Clinic podcast. And for me personally, over the years, it's really appreciated. If people want to learn more, we've given lots of really useful tips and tricks. But for the next steps, how can people learn more and really put this into practice?
Sure, I will give you a couple of articles, Jack, to pop in the show notes about structure and ROI and stuff like that. There'll be a lot of information that people can follow. So check out my blog, cmauk.co.uk, cmauk.co.uk. If you want to pick my brain about something that I said, perhaps you disagree with it, or you want to ask, get a bit more clarity on something, then the best place to get me would be on Twitter at chrismarr101. Or you can email me, chris@cmauk.co.uk. Those are probably the best things to do, and then pick up the Ask You Answer. It's like one of the best books on sales and marketing for this day that you could read and study and put into action. So pick up that resource as well. Yeah,
I would definitely second the Ask You Answer. And for those who are potentially a little skeptical, although Chris is based in the UK and has a funny domain.co.uk, it is entirely applicable to wherever you are in the world. Don't let the accent and the domain put you off. Chris, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us on the Grow My Clinic podcast. As Chris said, if you're looking for the show notes, you can find them at clinicmastery.com/podcast. and search for Chris Marr. And we look forward to joining you in another episode really soon.
This is the Grow My Clinic podcast by Clinic Mastery, where we help you deliver amazing client experiences to grow your clinic.